It is a little bit after 2 o'clock on Thursday, November 3rd. And the topic for the week was authenticity. I found myself getting a little nervous before this live broadcast today. Not because of the live thing, but because I got my crap called on me a little bit, maybe even 20 minutes before I popped on to join you all. Amazing how here's another topic that I just pull out of there because it seemed to make sense. We're just wrapping up the Halloween season and Day of the Dead, and their costumes are so prevalent. Masks are very prevalent. It made sense to talk about authenticity. I thought, oh, that's an easy topic. It's good timing. Snuck up on me as well. I have a big thank you to the people in my life that call me out on when I am also wearing masks and where I'm hiding behind them. Let me know what you guys have picked up on this week. If you saw the video that I put out on Monday, it was just a charge to notice what areas in your life you might be hiding behind a mask. When is that safer? When is it risky to pull off the mask and share who you really are with people? Is it easier with some than others? Is it easier in some circumstances than others? That would all make sense. But just a charge to start to watch where you do it and where it's easy for you to let the mask down and show who you are. Sometimes it is the healthiest choice to keep on a mask in some situations. So I was just inviting you to think about when it happens, when it doesn't, when it's smart, when you're using it as a crutch, and to start a conversation about, well, am I being truthful with myself and with the people around me? I'll delve into this a little bit. I was thinking about if any of you are willing to pop in a comment, totally up to you, as always, when you've shared something that you were nervous about and when it went well. Brief description of something that was super scary for you. You shared it, it went well. What was it that made the difference? When have you shared something that didn't go well? Why? What did make the difference? I know a lot of us could have stories about sharing something that just, we were nervous coming into it and then it really backfired. What is the difference there? What can help us? We'll talk about that a little bit as we go. I talk about authenticity in my coaching program ad nauseum almost because it's so important. We're all working on this. This is a lifelong process for a lot of us to try to figure out who we really are and when it's okay to step into the truth of that and show up for who we are, unabashedly, being accepted or not. This is something that I think we all struggle with. Again, lifelong process, layers of it. This is just one layer today to just start a conversation and see where you all are at, what's going on. When has it been easy for you? When is it tough? Are there areas in your life or times in your life when it was easier? Is it getting easier now? Did it used to be easier for you? Let me know. I wanted to share a little story about a coaching course that I was in a while ago where we were all invited to, if we wanted to speak up and to share one of those scary stories. Because if you've had a good experience with this, you can find that getting that stuff off our chests is such a relief. It's such a big deal to be able to be truthful about the skeletons in our closet or the things that are tough for us. The times in which we have shared something scary, and it has turned out to be a good thing. How relieving that is for us to get something off our chest, to truly be seen for who we are and accepted for that, I think is a base need. It's something we all need. So in this coaching class, we were invited to do that, to experience that relief in a supportive environment, getting something off our chest. And a gentleman stood up to share his story, and it was clear that he was holding something back. He was getting some prodding, helpful prodding from the leader to create a safe space for him to open up and share what it was that he was hiding. With the safe prodding from her, what comes out first is that he's worried people are going to find out he's inadequate. So he's carrying around this message of, I'm inadequate. And that's the first thing that comes out. And all of us, I can only speak for myself, but I'd be willing to bet a lot of the people in the group were starting to hang on every word, because we so badly want to love each other and allow this guy to experience the relief of coming clean with whatever it is he's holding back. A little bit of trepidation on my part, and I'm sure some of the group as well, in like, what is he going to share? What is it that we're going to have to support him in? And the coach in this situation is getting to the root of the mask by asking him what he's hiding, and we're all waiting to see if he's going to be comfortable and brave enough to share this secret that he's covering up. And after a visible struggle, he confesses to the room that he's HIV positive, and he didn't want us to know. And instead of being taken aback, there was this overwhelming outpouring of love and support from the room for this man. And I think it surprised him. It became clear that in being authentic and sharing something that he was holding back that was so vitally important to who he was and what he was walking with at the time, that it created an opportunity for the group to connect and support him. Conversely, the inauthenticity created a distance from the group. Without knowing and understanding who he was and what he was struggling with, it kept people from connecting with him. He was afraid that he wouldn't be loved, that he would be ostracized for sharing this story, and he effectively removed himself from that love and connection by not being real. Now, it doesn't always work out well. It's a risk. It's a risk. This is why we have those masks, because it's a risk to share who we really are. Let's talk about what to do when it goes wrong, and maybe some preventative stuff. Now, we did touch on a couple topics ago when we were talking about how we don't really need their approval. That's a great example for when we're sharing aspects of ourselves that are the truth, and they may be a vulnerable thing to share. Do we need everyone to validate us all the time? What if they disagree? We need to have some skills in place, some tools in place to be okay when things don't go wrong. And maybe if it's a super hairy story, maybe we just share it in bits and pieces. Brene Brown, who's one of my ultimate favorites, has an excellent tip kind of for the preventative if you were going to share a hairy story, and that is to share with those who earned the right to hear your story. Those are the people who are closest to us in our tribe, who we know that we can trust to not judge, to accept whatever it is. Share with people who you can trust to accept you. And maybe you have a history, and maybe it's the trust itself that is so difficult. A lot of us, if we've been burned in those instances where we shared a part of ourselves enough and it didn't go well, rebuilding that trust is a scary, tough thing. So maybe be real selective with who you share it with. You don't always have to share things like this on Facebook because you're opening up a broad range of social media where you can control that feedback. I have seen instances where this works super well for people. I've seen people really experience that relief and getting wonderful feedback from the social media tribe. And when it goes well is when they can remain unattached to the responses that come in that don't support what they're sharing. So if we can do that, maybe taking that risk and sharing it on social media can be quite a relief. Again, it's an unraveling. This happens in layers. Tina is saying sharing our fears and demons helps put them in the sunlight and helps to place the things that feel bigger than they really are at their proper size to realize we can handle it. I think, creating the distance from it can seem so gnarly in our own heads, but calling it out into the sunlight, as Tina is saying, gives us some distance to keep from being consumed by how scary that is. And that is stepping into that authentic, the truth of who we are by calling it out. And we can do this for ourselves as well. It doesn't always have to be with someone else. So that's another tip. If you're real nervous, if the trust isn't there, at least call it out to yourself. Allow yourself to validate those darker places so that you can be authentic, that you know, I am holding all parts of myself to be okay. I don't need anyone else to validate me. We talked about that a few weeks back as well. Tia is saying, sharing the story with the person who loves us the most, their perspective will come from a little less critical place. Yes, we would hope so. And sometimes that unconditional love, even that can be a risk. Knowing the proper place and time as well as who we can share with is important. Okay, so with those last two comments, I'm going to talk about what I was nervous about a little bit. I'm going to share a little bit in case it helps. In sharing the story with the people that we trust and knowing the proper time and place. Right before getting on this call, I recognized that I was in a space of being inauthentic. Wow, I can feel tears coming behind my eyes right now. This is so super scary. But I want to share the struggle of how there are pieces that are tough to share even with those that are closest to us. And I was noticing how I was caretaking someone else with something that's painful for me and being super worried about how they would respond and tiptoeing around their reactions and looking for the proper time and place to share something. Yeah, we've got to take that with a grain of salt. Sometimes timing is important and hedging our bets. It does come into play, but not to the extent that we are keeping a permanent mask on for something that is truly important to us at a deep soul level. I had a beautiful friend mention this to me before I got on this call, that we are doing that person a disservice if we're holding back that truth, knocks them off right at the knees from being able to respond in a way that's truthful to them. Hey, good or bad, we can't always control how other people are going to respond. But sometimes we've got to take that risk in being truthful and saying, hey, this is scary. And it's really important to me. And I'm scared. And I don't know if this is going to go well. But I need to come clean on a part of it, because if I don't, I'm hiding behind a mask that just corrugates. Is that the right word? It rots away at who we really are. And yes, it's a risk, and yes, it's scary, but taking that opportunity to take off the mask and to come clean and say, this is who I really am, is the only way we can glimpse the potential of that release, that relief, that peace, that happiness of the truth on the other side of that. There's no rules for how we do this. Sometimes it's just rip it off like a Band-Aid and go. Damage control after the fact. Sometimes we share in those little bits and pieces and layers. Sometimes we pick and choose who we're going to share it to, and we warm up and we practice. It's fun to have practice buddies. Hey, can I try on this conversation? Because I'm scared out of my mind and I want to see how this sounds. Can you bounce this off of me and let me know how it's sitting when you hear this? That's a great thing to do with our friends, with peers that we trust, again, with coaches. Sometimes we just got to throw our heart over the fence and just go for it. I don't think we really grow until we take those risks and do those things that are scary. I'd love to hear from you all where this shows up in your world. Have you thought about the mask? Let me know what comes up for you even after the fact. If you're catching this later, pop on, throw in a comment. Anytime I'm posting stuff throughout the week, I would love to bring in your feedback to these live calls. Tina's also being authentic is powerful and deepens friendships or shows us who shouldn't be in our tribe. Amen. Yeah, sometimes we don't know until we show up. Until even a tiny piece of that skeleton you can test out the waters there and see how people are going to receive it. And there are different categories of friendships and people that we keep close to us. Again, keeping close those inner tribes, the ones that we know we can trust to share with. But sometimes those change, and we might need to relegate people to different positions where, hey, maybe you're a great friend for these situations, but I just don't share everything with everyone. And we hedge our bets. We shouldn't have to. Shouldn't have to share absolutely everything with everyone. Again, sharing with those people who have earned the right to hear those stories. I wanted to, if there aren't any comments, I wanted to leave you all, let me see if I can, good, I do still have it, yay. A quote, a charge for those of you who are willing to be brave. I'm going to move this a little bit, there we go. For those of you who are willing to be brave, to share a little piece of that skeleton, to do a little bit of that unraveling, hedging your bets, doing the damage control after the fact. I mean, that really is cleaning up and being in integrity about it, is saying, hey, this may not come out great. Maybe leading with an intention. Here's my intention, where you can share the positive intention before you share something hairy and scary. And then if it doesn't go well, saying, hey, I apologize in advance if this sucks, because this is super scary for me, and I'll do the best I can to clean it up on the backside, but here's my intention. Oftentimes, that's a great way to share something that's super scary. Journaling is where I test the waters first before voicing my authenticity. Oh yeah, that's a great way to do it. And kudos, because then you're self-validating. You're not needing anyone else when you're just journaling to say, hey, I'm okay, or to call something out and saying, this is the truth of who I am. Wonderful example. Wonderful example. I know that taking care of them by censoring my response when I'm walking on eggshells, I'm postponing their opportunity to grow. Yes, Sarah, that is exactly what I am trying to call myself out on. Wow, those tears are coming right back. It's crazy. This authenticity stuff can be super, super scary. So vitally important. Sarah, thank you for that contribution. Here's what I'm going to leave you all with. This is a quote. I might butcher his last name, but I'm going to do my best. By Anthony Anaxagoru. Have fun with that one. Rebellion is where you look society in the face and say, I understand who you want me to be, but I am going to show you who I actually am. There's your charge for this Thursday. See what you can do to peel away those layers of mask, or maybe take it all off for 1 second and see who shows up for you. This is a process. Authenticity is a lifelong process. So have at it. Be courageous. If any of you need a listening ear, a non-judgmental listening ear, do know that you can reach out. Happy to support you. Darren is saying making sure the other person is in a good place is important before telling something hard and important to me. Yeah, absolutely. Again, with a grain of salt. We've got to remember that we're important too. So yeah, that's the timing thing. That's when maybe we can put that feeler out and say, hey, I've got something that's kind of scary to share. How are you doing over there? Are you in a good spot to receive this? Perfectly okay to do. Where we can carry that on too far is when we caretake and step around on eggshells for too long. We don't give the other person an opportunity to grow, as Sarah was saying. So, yep, it's a balancing act. I would agree with that, Darren. Thanks, Sarah. Learning to stand in myself, love, truth, while allowing others to be triggered. Go trigger somebody today, you all. Carefully. Let me know how it goes. Yeah, if you crash and burn, you can blame it on me. This crazy person said I needed to try something out. But let's, we can always debrief and talk about what went well, where we can grow. I think if we keep ourselves in this small little box, trying to protect ourselves, trying to protect everyone else, it's not really living, is it? It's okay to do it in small steps. Love you all. I'll check in with you next week. Thanks for being here. Bye.